So, as usual, there is much to talk about, but I deliberately uploaded this to my community page on my YouTube channel. And, well, you see what you see before you, the view from the top of the world, Mount Everest. And to some, I realise that's a touchy subject because, well, flat Earth. I just keep an open mind. I've always thought there was a couple of things a bit odd, not least of which is how do they know what's in the centre of the Earth, etc., and the various layers and all the rest of it. And even if people could argue about electromagnetic aspects, magnetic poles, whatever else, and trust us, we're scientists, there was one or two things I had a question about, but not least of which, if something's spinning, well, how about a bike, for example? A bike wheel. You turn the bike upside down, you spin the back wheel. If you had anything attached to it, what's it going to do? It's going to go out the way. It's not going to be drawn in the way. But you get round that apparently because they reckon there's this ball of iron. Look, I'm just doing an off-the-cuff video, and I'm sure you can see that for what it is, and maybe mock me accordingly. But just look at it as a conversation. When you don't have access to a library or blah blah blah, shoot the breeze in the street, whatever. But we are told that there's this, the molten ball they reckon of possibly iron, blah blah blah. And that because it rotates or counter-rotates at a certain speed and all the rest of it, everything that's on the Earth is drawn towards it. And, thus we have gravity, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot that I've thought that, well, for example, then, if that's the case, how do we not have gravity plating? Well, and people will say, oh, you ignoramus skull. Seriously. There's perfectly reasonable reasons why you can't do that, but the spinning ball in the center, gravity, blah, 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 based on a spinning ball of iron, blah, blah, blah. Or it would take too much energy in relation to size or blah, 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 whatever mechanism it would need to do. I keep an open mind. But I look at this, and the reason I shared was, well, you see a curvature. and I realized even as I've done this, there'll be so many people saying, look, every camera known to man or woman leaves some sort of fisheye, whatever, or it's been done, blah, 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 with. But I'll give you an example of an experience I was reminded of by this, which was Edmund Hillary. Now, through some freak of whatever, this certainly working class lad got a chance in the early 80s to go to a place called Fettes College in Edinburgh. Now, because I had a state school education up to that point, and, well, you could certainly say home life could have been a bit better, I don't think I was mentally prepared to be there. And you could argue I missed opportunities that possibly could have been presented to me based around knuckling down in such an establishment. But I just couldn't get my head around the fact that my folks were about 7 miles from the bloody school at the time. And I was a boarder. So, yeah. But because of being there in the early 80s for a period of time, I got to experience an audience with Sir Edmund Hillary, who obviously kicked ass by actually being part of the first to get to the top of Everest. And I remember being given the impression highly motivated, tough dude in the sense of achieving his goals. And and this talk, and I have no idea, it must have cost something for him to be there, or maybe a nicety for some aspect of the school, I don't know. But it was certainly interesting. And yet again, maybe an opportunity, an experience that I would have probably more benefited from being an adult listening to. But anyway, I was there at the time and I was listening to this individual, and remember, we are going back at least 40 years or so, or more. And the preparation aspect. And remember, this is back in I think it was 53, wasn't it? Where are we? I'm sure it was about 1953. Oh, bollocks. Yeah, there we go. May 1953. So there was an awful lot of preparation needed, and think about it, 1953, the technology then as regards making things happen was an awful lot more basic. And of course, beyond a certain height, a certain point, the atmosphere becomes so thin that breathing becomes harder and harder, and thus more exertion on the body. Plus, remember, you have to carry everything that you want to consume with you, which you're going to have to carry in the form of dead weight on your body, etc., while having to climb this unbelievable challenge many miles up into the sky, and it's not like a stairway. Yeah, so, and I'm obviously not selling this. I'm absolutely underselling this. But the sheer exposure to temperature, differences in temperature, and obviously as the higher they go, the colder it got, and to get there, so unachievable a task for most that, I mean, I dare say before Sir Edmund and his party, others had possibly got there. They maybe just didn't have the network and whatever else to tell anybody about it. But many have died trying. And to this day, apparently, many do die trying. And some people will spend, who have the wealth, an absolute fortune to raise and heighten their chances of success to get to the top of Mount Everest. So, even on a spiritual, because, think about the occultists, on a spiritual plane, blah, blah, blah. And even for our argument's sake, that they believe that the earth is flat, being able to get to a height where they can, at least in their own heads, see the world physically for what it is. Yeah, I could see the attraction. Absolutely. And another reason that this long-winded video I decided to do was inside the world's deadliest all-inclusive trip, how conga lines, queues form on Everest, why guides charge up to $1 million, and the very surprising secrets going on at base camp. Now, because it's the Mail Plus, it means I don't get to read any of this. But I have seen other articles recently, especially where, they're fairly mercenary, many who are involved now, at least, in getting up there. And they may start off, we're part of this, and people club together to help fund their particular attempts in, various groups. And they might be quite friendly towards each other, but if things go tense up, many of them in that group are more focused on achieving their goals than actually say, right, okay, we'll take them back. No, honestly, many of them are apparently given the impression, hey, if it goes tits up there, you went up knowing that could be an option, blah, blah, blah. I know I'm off at tangents, but am I? It's like, all I'm saying is, there's going to be reasons why people go up there, right? And it maybe is because apparently the Earth is flat. I keep an open mind. I've always said over years and years and years that I couldn't give a flying fuck if we were basically on the top of some cosmic ice cream cone. Isn't it more important that on the ground and around it, and politicians and councils and whatever else, that you put up or impress upon to as many people as possible, have you looked at the occult? Have you looked at the networks? Have you looked at this thing called, Freemasonry, Eastern Star, humanism, the New Age movement, OTO, Ordo Templi Oriente, various things that seem to be going on all around. Absolutely. When I say seem, they're there. They're literally not hiding it in many instances. But I do find an awful lot of people in the alternative media find it more interesting. And any data that's sent to them is like, well, no. Everything picture-wise is fish-eyed, apparently. Everything. And to the point that, well, I've seen some people say, well, even when you're looking out the window of a plane at X amount of height, you're still looking at a fish-eye glass and all that. Look, I would definitely say if you're that focused on waking people up that the Earth is not round, it's flat, well, why don't you just fucking get up Everest if it's that much, of a thing? Because at least that way, either way, you can stop wasting an awful lot of time, as opposed to, well, pointing out the networks, the agendas, at ground level. Anyway, I've probably not won up many friends for that, but it wasn't meant that way. It's just my thoughts on it. Anyway, your thoughts, and I'll speak to you soon.